Hi there, and we might be live already. I am here with a wonderful human being named Patricia, and we're here to actually talk about, ideas and creating your altar and just different ideas. And so I will come back to that. But welcome. I'm glad that you could join me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. As soon as I saw your email, I was like, altars, I love altars. Let's
I
go
know,
talk.
I know, right?
Let's have a conversation about altars.
Right? I know, and they're so juicy and yummy. I mean, in my view right now, I can see one, two, three. I know there's four or five. I mean, that's just from right where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll get to that. And I made a slideshow. And do you want Patty or Patricia?
You could do Patty or Patricia.
Okay.
Lately, let's do Patricia. I know it says
Okay.
Patty in my thing, but
I know because that's how I know you as Patricia. Well,
yeah.
the cool thing about altars, if you think about it, since the beginning of time, people have created altars, and it's not only just like to ask for blessings and connect, like to the divine or something greater than themselves, but to give thanks and to kind of make your own. This is where Patty or Patricia and I get into it. Make your own personal magic, right? And it's also, they can be used for like honoring those where you've been, where you're at, where you're going, ancestors, but we'll get into all that. So what I like to think of it is creating an altar is like putting your intent in action. And they're like, to me, and Patricia can talk about that too, they're like a physical placeholder for our dreams to live, and for us to put energy into, and to kind of direct our intent out to the universe at times. They're a great place to put your vision board and that kind of thing. And so since we all, as human, we all grow and change, hopefully, then our altars can grow and change with us. And I've got a presentation I'll show you of just a bunch of different altars later on. And there's a million reasons you can use an altar. Ask for guidance and strength, offer gratitude. Those are always great. Send out blessings is a good one. As a prayer for yourself, for a healing altar for people that you know need it. You can use altars to meditate, remind you to actually sit down on the cushion or whatever, or do whatever your spiritual practices are, to create like action and dreams and goals. And like I already said, honor your elders and passages, like a lot of people do Day of the Dead ritual or altars, ceremony ritual and all of that. And I'll talk a little bit later about how I do it. But what do you think about altars? Because I know you're actually a lot more creative and kind of funny than I am on it, and I love them.
I think I'm obsessed with altars. So just to backtrack a little bit, I was born and raised Catholic, and altars were a part of the religion. But the thing is, no one ever taught me back in the day that altars were what I know of them now. So it was almost like something that we had to do, or we had to create, or it was something that was at the church that you would go to at the altar where the priest was, right? So growing up, I always had like the statue of Mary, the statue of Jesus, a rosary and candles. That was my altar back in the day. It was an altar for prayer, right? So as I got into a little bit of witchcraft, a little bit of, just a little bit more into my spiritual life and my spirituality, my altars have just taken a life of its own. In the beginning of my spiritual awakening, I created an altar because that's where I wanted to meditate. I wanted an anchor, a place where I can sit and meditate and journal. And my altar started with an incense stick. I maybe had like a little elephant because I love elephants. And that was it. It was right by the window. I lived in a 5th floor walk up. I had one window, maybe I had 2 windows, but I had one window facing a tree. And that's where I sat and talked to God. And I talked to my soul. And then as I did more of the shamanic training and the connected to the goddesses, my altars just kind of took a whole life of its own. So I have, to your point, like you had mentioned, you have altars here, here, and here. I have altars for everything. I have a self-love altar. I have an altar for Goddess Venus. I have a prosperity altar. I have my entire living room is really an altar. So I find altars to be more of a portal to the divine, a portal to connect to my spirit guides, my spirit team. And to your point, it can be a visual representation of what you're looking to manifest.
Mm-hmm.
And it is and all the altars could be an altar of prayer, of gratitude.
Yeah, I've traveled a lot of the world, and I don't know, I've just always gravitated, like I'm looking at Ganesh in front of me, and Amaji, for example. But then over there, I love that a lot of the places I've gone have been, I mean, even Egypt, that's completely spiritual when I look at those over there, and I've been to a lot of countries, but I had never really thought about it. But damn, I mean, most of the time I gravitated, or all 99% of the time I gravitated towards spiritual places. And so then I bring stuff home, or my students would give it to me, or my apprentices would give it to me. And I mean, I gotta tell you, and I find that I don't know. So there's a lot of reasons you can have an altar. I have them as a place to reflect on the different, like the mother and child is standing next to Kuan Yin, which is next to the rice harvest goddess, from Indonesia. So there's a lot of reasons and ways. But what I loved, and I wanted to get to, when you said that you had like a little elephant and an incense stick.
Yeah.
It can be that simple.
It could be that simple. Yeah. It could be, as simple as that. Like when I travel, it's as simple as that. Because I can't bring all the things, right? But when I'm here in my home, I have pretty much everything. And the one thing I really love doing in the altars is having all the elements represented. Fire, water, earth, air.
Right.
And me. Something that represents me, something that represents the elements, something that represents the goddesses that I am working with. And so it's actually interesting. I'm the same exact way when I travel. I usually go to either a temple or somewhere where people go to pray. Thailand was one of the most amazing places for temples. I went to every one that I could possibly go to, and the way that they honored the Buddha, and the way that they honored their altars was just the most magical, beautiful thing that I've ever seen. And I know they do the same thing in Bali, but I've never been to Bali, so I'm going to talk about Thailand. I remember going to one of the temples, and you would actually take gold leaf. They would give you pieces of gold leaf, and you would go to the Buddha, you go to the statue, and you would place it as a representation of your prayer.
Right.
And honor. It was such a beautiful experience. And again, it's all about honoring. It's all about taking the time out of our busy schedule to come to center, recalibrate our energy, and really, really focus on one thing, which is honoring of yourself and honoring of God, the divine, or whatever deity you're praying with, praying to, or in communion with.
Right. Yeah. And it's like when you're talking about, I have been to Thailand and I lived in Indonesia, so I've been to Bali, but then Nepal is very much like, so, because one of the things that happens in those three countries it happens in others, but those really big. I mean, you'll just be walking around, you turn a corner and bam, you're right. I mean, like there's this whole
every corner.
Yeah, right. 10-foot statue of somebody. Singapore was like that too, and oh my God, there's a 15-foot Ganesh. Or I was in east coast of Mexico. No, I can't remember. Veracruz, maybe. Anyway, they had the Angel of Death. I walked into, I swear to God, it was like a 10-foot plastic, bright purple plastic Angel of Death. But they were everywhere. Nepal, all of these different places that are practicing and honoring. I mean, I remember being on the Yucatan and just walking. I was going back outside of Tulum. It wasn't Tulum's things, but they have another temple set in there. And you'd go and you'd find this beautiful place in the middle of the jungle, and there would still be like a rice offering, and it was still being used. It's so magical.
Well, you were talking about Egypt, and I actually, most of what I have on my altar actually came from Egypt because I was just there in October. And that was another
I bet.
magical experience. And a lot of what I brought here was gridded and energetically infused with whatever temple I was at in Egypt. And like the water, the Nile River, and like the oils from Egypt. So again, it's all coming back. So I also feel like altars, like especially from a divine feminine perspective, like we're all priestesses, right? So I feel like it is the way of the priestess is creating altars. The way of the priestess is honoring. The way of the priestess is allowing our creativity to flow through to showcase within our altar making and within our honoring and our divination.
I like that. That's a nice way to think about it. Yeah, because I mean, as we already said, there can be a lot of reasons for it. And I know that in my students and apprentices and people, they've been sometimes really hesitant. And I go, I have a picture. I mean, I've got them all over the place right now, but where you can have like, I made mini travel altars. Like you take an Altoid can and you can decorate, like get pictures of the inside. I've got a picture I'll show you in the slide deck
Oh,
later.
I love that. Yeah.
And then you can just fold it up. I got a little like miniature Buddhas and Kuan Yins and Ganeshas and stuff and put it right in there, and flowers and I mean, you can do anything if you need to be hidden, or a shoebox, and that you pull out, or kind of hidden like you did with the elephant and the incense, because it's our intent that's making it an altar.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole thing, right?
It's our intention and whatever we want to create. So I've created altars for manifestations. It's interesting. I have this, what I call a magic book. And every full moon, I write in it. I light a candle, I put it on top, and that's where I meditate and pray, and all the energies that I'm infusing within this particular space in this area, that's really just focus energy. That's focus manifestation. And I do it for full moons as well, for healing ceremonies. Like altars for healings are beautiful because we can then create an energetic grid. So when I do distance Reiki sessions, I create an altar specifically for that person, specifically for that healing, because then all the energies are concentrated and focused in one particular area, and it's clean energy. There's no distortion because this is the intention. Their name, their birthday, what their location is, and then whatever it is that they're needing support on, and that's how we do the session. In that altar. Yeah. And then after that altar is done, depending on what elements I have, I offer it back to the earth. So I go to so I moved to Florida. I don't know if you know this, but I've moved from New York to Florida, and I'm 10 minutes from the beach. So every time I actually have a bowl, which is right here. And this is the bowl of like ash, rose petals that have been part of the altar that I offer. So every time I clean out my altar, I go to the ocean and I offer anything that I'm able to offer, because then that kind of completes the cycle of healing, that completes the cycle of manifestation, that completes the cycle of the intention.
That is so sweet.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and I know in the slide deck, I think I mentioned, that because I don't know, it's something new. It really is about creating magic in a way. And you and I are both around, wherever you really focus your intention and focus all that energy, that's where you stand the greatest chances, in a sense, of creating manifestation, realizing your dreams, focusing your intent, giving you that. Because, we all know life happens and the shit hits the fan and we all get a little crazy some days, or the moon tweaks us out, or God only knows, but it happens, Yeah. And it's really nice to have a place to come back into that focus Yeah,
because they say it takes 17 seconds for a manifestation to start momentum. So imagine creating an altar. It takes longer than 17 seconds to create an altar and then start to put your intention there. So that manifestation, the momentum is there. But also it's a way to detach yourself from the manifestation, because you've created a visual representation of the manifestation. So when you, every time you see that, you're like, oh, it's done. It's done. God, it's with God now. And so you're not always thinking about it because you've already created the intention of anchoring it into an altar and saying, you know what? This is yours now, God. I trust. It is done. And you walk away.
Yeah. And for a lot of
people,
well, and for people that don't like the concept of God, I know I have struggled in the past, but the divine, the unified praying field, the universe, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
You know, there's
your soul, your spirit team, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
I have noticed, well, I don't know, in all my years, I would say I've tested it a lot of times. And for me, I have irrefutable proof that there's something bigger than just my own head and heart in this. So I know not everybody believes that, but we
believe in a
so.
higher consciousness, or a higher spirit, a higher energy, something bigger than us.
Yeah. And so that's why I think for me, that's what makes altars so really yummy. So you want to give us a tour of yours? Yeah. Oh, and I would say, you know, it's like what you were saying earlier, sorry about the direction. I mean, literally, you can put anything on it. Like that one, the big one, you'll see a picture of it. It's huge. But it's got, you know, bear hair and, you know, mud mamas and, you know, bone this and crystal that. And, you know, but anything can go on.
Your creativity can go wild.
Well, and you were saying you had like an abundance altar. I mean, I know I've got a money altar over there. My mom, crazy shit. And my mom gets these $1 million bills. They're like, they're for a Christian thing, and she gives them out. Yeah. I keep getting these $1 million bills.
I love it. I want one.
Right? I can show one later. Yeah. But you know, they go on it. Yeah.
So prosperity altar, it's entering. So if you look at your room, depending on where you want your altar to be, if you walk in to the front door of that particular room, the furthest left corner is actually the prosperity corner. So that's part of the feng shui, right? So the corner, if you take a room and divide it into a triangle, there's 3 sections on the top, 3 sections on the bottom.
Yeah.
And the far left corner is the prosperity corner. So if you're looking here now, that right corner, that's my prosperity altar. Right in the left corner. So there's a candle in there. I had went to Mount Shasta. If you see the little picture, that's a picture of the prosperity angel. So there's a prayer in there. There's a jar. I can see it. There's a jar with coins from all over the world, $2 bills. And then there's a piece of paper there. There's a prayer. And that's my prayer. And then I have, so the green stones, if you look at them, they're actually Isis stones.
Oh, nice.
Like Andromeda crystals. They came from Egypt. So they actually wanted to be there. Interesting story. My credit cards are on there. So I don't use them. But if you look, so past that, my main altar is right. So so I don't know if you see that right there, but this is my main altar. I know there's a lot going on here, but that's because I just do a lot of rituals and ceremonies, and I do a lot of healing here. So this altar is facing east. So the sun rises right there. So that's where our prayer of intention is, east, and it's a prayer of gratitude. And I have everything here. So I have candles. I have my goddesses. So Goddess Isis, Mary of Guadalupe, Mary Magdalene. I have Buddha over here. I have a few of them. I have crystals. I have incense. I mean, everything. And I have this little carpet I call the portal. So this carpet is actually connected to one of my sisters, my cosmic sister in LA, and she has the same carpet, and we kind of connect on here. And then every so often she'll be like, well, are you working on the altar today? I go, yeah, I was. She was like, I felt it. So there's the energetic connection, because energy knows no bound. Energy knows no time or space. So if you create an energetic connection to someone somewhere across because I'm in Miami, she's in LA, someone across the country, there's still that energetic connection. There's that intuition. There's that deep soul connection. I have my ox. This is my little magic book. You see the little magic book? It's black magic book. And that's literally where I write my manifestations. And most of my manifestations really are all about how I want to feel. What kind of energies do I want to bring into my life and experience in my body? And that's what I create and anchor. And then if I go this way, I have my medicine drums. And then if I go this way, I have my sound healing.
Oh, sweet. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So that is, so this is my little temple. I call it the Sacred Sheet Temple. And I do healing ceremonies here. But yeah, so I have all these altars and I love it. I literally, people that walk in the door, they kind of stop for a second because they go, it feels really light in here. The energy feels peaceful. I go, well, that's by design. I created this space for healing. So
really beautiful.
I love my altars.
That's gorgeous. A gorgeous space just all together.
Thank you. Yeah. But the one thing I will say is, as much as I love my altars, if the divine, the universe, God, whoever came to me tomorrow and said, I want you to get rid of all of this and donate it, I have no problem doing it.
You know what I was thinking about, because I'm a hell of a lot older than you are. And I got to thinking, I was having to write my will up. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? I have over like 100 crystals. I have some seriously sacred shit here. And I was like, what am I going to do? It's like, I realized I'm going to have to really think about that.
Yeah. They're very, very special. There was actually a point when I moved from New York to here, I actually started to give away certain crystals that I knew I just couldn't, they were just too big for me to bring. And I started to clear out because I wanted to start a little bit fresh in the new space. And so to your point, I was like, who do I give these crystals to? Because they're part of they were part of my altar. They're part of the manifestations, they're part of the prayers, they're part of the healing, they're part of the things that I did at the altar for however many years. And I gave them to very specific people. Yeah, because I knew they were going to use them properly.
Yeah, I know. I just realized. So for those of you that are listening to us just talk, it's something to consider, that it's like, whoa, lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, let me see if I can pull up a little quick slideshow. I'm closing all of the Zoom junk. And of course, I will. Let me share my screen and I'll show you what I set up. Give me one quick second. Share screen. All right. And so basically, altars, we were saying, they can be really, really simple. And this is actually from Indonesian mask. And this is just a Buddha in his own little pagoda. And that's it. It's hidden in the plants. They can be out of the way. This is up on top of the bookcase when you walk in the house, right behind me over there. They can be an entire room. And this is the one, or our statement. So because normally I would think, what are you doing showing everybody on Facebook their altar? But I realize anybody who walks in my front door, this is right there. On the hat part of the wall. And there's a Ganesh on top of my TV stuff with a big crystal because it's like, please.
I love it.
Take care of stuff, and and it's just like, because these are all important to me, and Kuan Yin follows me around. I've got so many of her. Whoops. And then they can be anything. You can put anything that's important. This one is right over here behind me, but you often see her on the side. So there's shell and essential oils. And I love this, the heart of a hippie thing, and candles and crystals. And those are the money I was telling you about, right? And
Yes.
Yoda, I got my baby Yoda there. There's a bigger Yoda in the thing over there. But then when I was in Scotland, this was, I consider this is actually an altar.
Oh,
I
wow.
walked to the fairy pools and I walked up. I couldn't tell what was wrong with the stump. And then I got closer to it and I realized people had used it as an altar and a wishing place and had put it stuck with coins all over it.
Oh, wow. It's wood.
That's a stump of a tree.
Wow. Amazing.
And all of these little nubbies are coins all over the thing.
It's an offering altar. I love it. Yeah. It's funny
Mhm.
you said fairy. I actually have outside of my patio a fairy, a little fairy altar for the fairies.
Mhm.
'Cause they're
Sweet.
good. They're good energy. They're good energy. You want them here.
And then this was a Beltane altar I had once. So, they're
Yeah.
great when you have ceremonies. And
Yes.
like Patricia said, this has got it's got all of the elements, it's got all the stuff in it. And I love, if you ever have these old champagne flutes, they were the glass with the colored stems. So the
Oh, I love
colors
that.
were, yeah, one of them broke. So I have to kind of find them again. But you put some of those little glass pebbles in it and then put the tea lights in them so the wind doesn't blow them out.
That's a great idea. I usually do the 7-day candles.
Yeah.
When I do ceremonies outside, because I usually do them on the beach and the wind blows them out. So you need something you need a candle that's actually within a container. So
That's why, if you can look and see, that's why, yeah. Yeah, it works really, really well. I got wine glasses. And also, of course, this is the Virgin of Guadalupe look-alike. Yeah, this is
Oh, that's in
from
Mexico. I
the
love that.
Basilica. Yeah, but churches, temples, mosques all have altars. This is from Indonesia when I lived there, and this is all actually on Bali. Or this is a winter solstice altar that we did in Texas at the
Oh,
Toltec Center.
beautiful. Yeah.
It can be as simple as a statue with a flower can become an altar. These are the little travel altars or little mini altars. I have these all over the world. So Ganesh and the Archangel Michael, the Virgin of Guadalupe, Kuan Yin, and that's a Buddha.
Oh,
This is
I
what
love
I meant though.
that.
You can make them, these are little cans. You can make like I've got little altars. I'm looking at a bunch of them all over my house because I'm like you, I think I love altars. This was Ram Dass when he was at Lama, but I took the picture because, they're remembrance, they're an honoring of, in essence.
Yeah.
And so this was Neem Karoli Baba, who Ram Dass had studied with. But, we can also have ancestor altars to honor.
Yes.
Whoops. And so you can courage, abundance, finance, money, love, hope, and, marking transitions, vision boards, ritual ceremony, just all, everything. And then, yeah. And she and I have also, we've already said this, you can put anything on them, anything, literally anything. I bet if somebody wanted a sex altar, they would have sex toys on it. That would be fun.
So yeah, full disclosure, I have one. It's actually next to my bedside table. It's the Goddess Venus altar.
Sweet.
It's for self-love, and it's for sensual self-love practices, basically is what it is.
Perfect. we meant it when we said you can have an altar for
literally for everything. Yeah.
And I just love that little cutie. But
wait, there's one more that we didn't talk about. One more place you can have an altar.
Where?
In your car.
Oh, I have several. Yeah, good point. I forgot.
Yeah, in your car. Yeah, that's a good one. I have one literally the dashboard. There's like a little divot and I put crystals in there. I have a happy Buddha in there. And
I do too.
Yeah, we're like, so I rub his belly. I'm like, let's have a good ride.
I had a happy Buddha, and then I had an auto accident, God, many, many years ago. And my arm, this is kind of weird. The only thing injured was my arm. It wasn't broken, but it was just hurt. And on him, when I finally found him in the wreck, that same arm had been broken on him, or one of his arms.
Wow.
So keeps traveling with me, but he took it so that I didn't.
Yeah. And they say that's what happens. Like whenever you have like either a crystal, in Asian tradition, jade is put in the car. And what happens is if it breaks, that means it basically the energy helped it absorb the energy of any kind of accident that could have happened. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, all I know is that was what was in today X-rayed me, and I was
so
okay.
Interesting.
And that was what broke on him. I was just glad I found him. But it's so funny, we have the same little laughing Buddhas, fat Buddha belly.
Yeah, little Buddha belly.
So I hope everybody, I mean, I just had fun. I just thought it'd be something fun to talk about. And I couldn't have gotten a better person
I love it. I saw it. Yes.
Right.
Any chance I can get to talk about altar ceremony ritual, I mean, I take the chance I get.
Well, they're really a lot of fun. And I know she and I, we use them all the time and everywhere. And, Patricia is pretty amazing. So I didn't think about it, but put your contact information in the chat. So if people want to get in touch with you, they pretty much, I think, know how to get in touch with me. But let us both do it then. We can both put our information in the chat. And that way anyone wants to connect, because you're doing amazing work. I love your energy. I love your heart. You get excited. I'm like, yeah, somebody else I can talk to about this.
Yeah. I was actually thinking of doing just an altar like a master class to teach people how to create altars and like do some sort of ritual around it. I'll let you guys know.
There you go. Yeah. And I don't know, it's more, I really like these informal talks because they can get, I'm sure any workshop you do will not be stuffy. But some people, they just get so damn boring about stuff. It's like, these are supposed to be fun, and expressive and wild and, and putting anything and everything. I mean, because I look at the angel of death, let me show you one of them.
I'd love to see it.
That same place I told you where I saw the 12-foot high angel of death. So this is, I was backpacking, right? So let's see. She's got the world on its hand, holding the world in its hand.
Yeah.
Because the angel of death says, everything belongs to her. This is when my brother got a 3D printer.
Wow.
And those are skulls all around the bottom. I just haven't printed it yet.
That's amazing.
It is. Actually, I like this one because it's not, I don't know, a skull in her hand instead of the world. But
I'm going to show you my favorite piece too. I'm show you my favorite piece.
Oh.
So this is the Isis stone. And this is from, so you can only get this in Nubia, in Egypt, on Philae Island, which is basically where the Isis temple is.
Wow.
And it looks like, if you look at it, it looks like a galaxy inside. And this is the mother one. So I have smaller ones. So this is the mother one that activates.
Sweet. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I use her a lot in ceremony and healing. Yeah, she sleeps with me sometimes, especially when my body needs an energetic recalibration.
Mm-hmm. Well, girl, if anything, maybe I should will all my stuff, because I've got some really potent healing stones from both Peru and Mexico, but especially Peru, maybe Egypt. But yeah,
I'll take it. I will treat them well.
Right, exactly.
We're manifesting an even bigger temple. So.
Yeah. All right, folks. Patricia, thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, we'll put our contact information down in the chat. And until then, go create an altar. Focus your intention. Focus your friggin' heart, not your head so much, and just run the experiment and play. Play with it. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, girl, you be well. I'm sure we'll be in touch again. And for everyone else. Yeah, absolutely.